And all that fine print that was on those documents that I just scrolled through really quick, we're going to cover with some good detail here, but like I said, please try to take some time to read through that at least once a season, then you can click and sign for the rest of the year. So I'm going to hand this off to Catherine now to talk to us about what COVID-19 is and what changes have happened.
Thanks, Michelle. So like Michelle said, I am going to cover how COVID-19 has changed the Adopt a Trail program. And we all know that life has gotten a lot more complicated since COVID-19 hit our community, and it was no surprise that we were going to have to reassess how we did the Adopt a Trail program. A couple of things that were our main concern was that we were big groups of people congregating, getting together, and sharing tools, sharing surfaces. So we wanted to really move this program forward. So we worked with VVMTA, Ernest and Michelle, to come up with a COVID-19 agreement. And what this agreement is, and you guys will sign this every time you go out, it's just basically a check-in on yourself and your risk level and where you have been and how you're feeling, as well as what is expected of you when you go out here and work with crews. Because we're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting our community, and we want to keep this program going, and we want to keep our community healthy. So we really want to stress and make sure that you guys respect and follow these protocols. So I'm just going to go ahead and read all of them. And I'm sorry, it's probably going to be kind of dry, but it's necessary that we go through them all. So number 1, follow all federal, state, and local public health orders as they apply. And we attached a link so that you could read the most up-to-date. This does not fully, number 2 is sharing and checking out the Wildlife Ambassador vest has been discontinued.
Oh, I think
this is more for our...
That might be my fault, I opened the wrong one.
That's okay.
This is the Wildlife Trail Ambassador guidelines, so let me open up the correct one. That's my fault.
Okay. Number 1's still the same for
yep.
Adopt a Trail. Yeah.
Coming up here in a second. There you go. Should be good now.
Okay, so I'll jump into number 2. Per public health orders, only the first 10 volunteers will be allowed to participate per group. Volunteers will be required to pre-register for any VVMTA volunteer project or activity. And so we know that the county has recently gone to group sizes larger than 10. We feel though that we would like to keep it to a group size of 10 people just to allow our rangers to really understand what these group dynamics are going to be like. We have new protocols in place. Having a group bigger than 10 is just going to add a lot of stress and unnecessary risk, we feel right now. So we hope that you guys understand that. It's something that we can revisit as the summer goes on and as we get continued guidance from the county. Number 3, if anyone is showing signs of illness, they will be requested to leave the site. Number 4, please try to stay in your community and travel less than 10 miles. Number 5, maintain at least a 6-foot distance from other individuals. Number 6, keep a reasonable and safe distance from other groups of no less than 20 feet. Number 7, it is not recommended for high-risk individuals and or those with underlying health conditions to participate. Number 8, if you feel sick or show any symptoms of COVID-19, you must stay home. Number 9, avoid touching your face, eyes, nose, and mouth. Number 10, cover coughs and sneezes with a tissue, bandana, or inner elbow. 11, no handshakes or fist bumps. 12, wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as frequently as possible, or use hand sanitizer. Number 13, hand washing is required before the beginning of a project, after using the bathroom, and at the conclusion of the project. Number 14, non-medical cloth face coverings for the nose and mouth are strongly recommended. Number 15, you are required to wear gloves, closed-toe shoes, eye protection, and long pants. Number 16, you are required to wear a helmet that meets that regulation code right there. So this is going to be like a climbing helmet. If you want to use your own personal helmet, just check the rating on it. Number 17, do not share tools. Only use the same tool from start to end. Number 18, bring your own food, water, and hand sanitizer. 19, do not carpool unless you're doing so with an immediate member of your household. 20, if you encounter other trail users, cover your face with your mask and give at least 6 feet of space for them to pass. Number 21, all tools, helmets, and equipment owned by VVMTA that were used are to be placed and organized in the dirty bin for disinfecting. So this is the cage that we built. Number 22, follow posted guidelines on the sheds of how to access, check out, and check in tools at the Adopted Trail tool shed. Number 23, in order to follow social distancing and sharing of pens and paperwork, it is required for all volunteers to sign documents digitally before arriving at Trailhead. Number 24, it is highly recommended to avoid the Adopted Trail tool sheds during busy hours, so 7 a.m. to 8:30 and 4:30 to 5:45 p.m. Number 25, you must be able to answer no to these questions to participate in a VVMTA volunteer activity. Have you been in known contact with anyone who has contracted the virus within the last 14 days? Have you been experiencing any of the symptoms associated with COVID-19? Do you have a temperature over 100.4 today? Number 26, if I test positive for COVID-19 within 14 days of participating in a VVMTA volunteer activity, I will voluntarily report this to the VVMTA. So that's the entire agreement. And I feel like a lot of it really isn't a surprise. It's all things that we've been hearing from the county and the state on how to be safe and protect ourselves and our community. Just tweaked a little bit to pertain a little bit more to our program. I'm sure you guys have some questions. Feel free to put them in the Q&A, and if you have any other questions outside of this time, you could reach out to Michelle, Ernest, or myself. And then Ernest, do you want to go over the shed protocols?
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'll add to this, the COVID agreement, obviously our current pandemic is constantly changing, right? It's new information each day. We're understanding more every day. We have more questions about it every day at the same time. And we will do our best to keep this agreement updated. And when or if we do update it, we'll make sure that we send it out to each team leader to saying, hey, we updated the agreement, just so you know, here's the change, just to keep our communication flow going and make sure that everyone understands what they are signing. So I hope that makes sense. And if you have questions on that, feel free to put them in the Q&A or stick around to the end and we can chat about it further. So the tool shed protocols, and there they go. You've seen some pictures from Michelle already, and you saw the cage, and that's kind of the biggest part of this. But going through number one, and again, this is for just the health and safety of our staff, VVMTA, Forest Service, as well as our rangers, and also for yourself and all our volunteers. So that's why we're putting all this in place. And we're trying to keep it as efficient and simple as we can for everyone, but we are asking that you respect them. So starting with the tool shed, we're asking that only team leaders, meaning yourself as a team leader on this call or a co-team leader that you may have, are the only ones going to the shed to check out tools for your crews. Now, this is going to be mainly independent teams working. If you're going out with a ranger, whether it's myself or it's Clayton or it's Halsey, we as rangers are going to check out those tools for you when we're going out. So if you're your first time going out in the Adopt a Trail program, the ranger will be in touch with you before your day, and the ranger will go in and work on checking in and checking out these tools for you. But in the future, again, we hope that you will work to becoming independent. So this will allow you to understand a bit more. So right now, first, again, only team leaders are approved to go in and check out tools and helmets. Number two, personal protection equipment or PPEs, such like masks, gloves, and closed-toed shoes are required to enter the tool shed. If you pull up to the tool shed in Minturn or Eagle, have your mask on before you get out of the car, have your hands sanitized, or better yet, put gloves on before you enter the tool shed. Only one person is allowed in the shed at once. As you saw from the pictures, they're pretty small. It's pretty difficult to social distance inside the tool shed. So please make sure that there's only one person in there. If you happen to pull up to the shed where there's another person inside, just be patient, wait, and access the shed after that person exits. I don't know about most of you, but I think like many, I have hand sanitizer in my vehicle. And if you don't, I suggest that you add that. So if I'm going up to the tool shed, again, I have the checkout process in your head, put on my mask, I hit my hand sanitizer, then I exit the car and I go out and I go into the tool shed. Next, the tools hanging on the racks and the helmets in the bags, which you'll see in both sheds, are the ones that are clean and can be checked out. The tools and helmets that are being checked out, please clear the report on the check-in, check-out erase board, dry erase board that you'll see in both sheds. It allows us not only to understand what tools are going out and coming in and how many are in or how many are out, but it also allows us to understand and make sure we can more or less reconcile tools that are clean and are dirty. So that way, if we see there's only 5 tools in the dirty cage, but there's a bunch checked out, it's not adding up, and we can kind of compare the two and make sure that we are able to keep those tools clean. So for the health and safety of you all and our volunteers. Next, the tools and helmets, as we've mentioned before, must be put in those cages, the dirty bins. Please make sure you do this when you return the tools. It is very important. And then the helmets must also, the tools and helmets in the dirty bin are not available for those checkouts, so don't grab them from there. So these will be posted in the sheds. It's on you as a team leader. Again, we appreciate your time and the responsibility that you're taking on with this. We're leaning on you. We wouldn't be able to run this without you as team leaders to kind of take on these roles and make sure that you communicate them to your team, but also follow them. So thank you.
Okay, so now I would like to open up the forum to some questions. I do see a few questions that have already come in. Carrie, you had asked if we have a version of the agreement in Spanish, and we do not at this point. That would take us quite a while to develop, but thank you for pointing that out. I can't guarantee when that'll be available, but that is something we'll figure out on how to provide. Dawes, you had asked, oh, I'm sorry, Ernest, you have a question?
I was gonna say, that's a good question, Carrie, and I'll make sure we add that in there.
And Dawes, you said tools marked so that will be used by only one person. All right, I'm kind of taking this as you're saying, we are only allowed to or supposed to use the same tool this whole time you are out volunteering. So one person's going to be in charge of pickaxing and or pulaskiing, and the other person's going to be McLeoding all day, that kind of thing. I don't know if somebody else understands that question differently, or if you want to clarify, Dawes, I'd be happy to change my answer.
I can jump in on that. I think you answered it, Michelle, and it's planning before you're going out. So you have a certain project in mind that you're working on the trail. And if you're going out with the ranger will help with your team to identify what tools need to come, and making sure that each volunteer has a correct tool to perform the project. Dawes, I know you all and Pedal Power have gone out independently for the past few years, and it's saying that asking for you to use the same tool. So Dawes, you go out with a pick and a shovel, and you're only using that pick and shovel, and your volunteer that is also out with you has almost the opposite. So you have a pick and a shovel, that person might have a McLeod and a pair of loppers. So then if there's certain things that need to happen, you're all on board with the correct tools to get the job done. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, a few more questions. Matthew asked, if there are 3 pickaxes out, are they numbered 1, 2, 3 so they don't get mixed up and shared? And I think, no, they're not labeled specifically. You're just going to be in charge of keeping track of which one is yours for that day. Another question from Mark, if people are wearing mask gloves, shouldn't they make it okay to share? And I don't know. I think the point is to try to keep everything as separated as possible. If you're wearing gloves, what's US Forest Service's feelings on that?
I would say that if you're wearing gloves, you're still kind of touching your face, and you're moving stuff around. You might I don't know, they could be contaminated. So I think as a precaution that definitely wear gloves, but I think we should just not share for right now as well. Gloves aren't as clean as you might think they are.
Matt asked, can we supply our own tools? By all means. You guys are welcome to. I think if you own your own tools, you probably know what you're doing. And yeah, if you're not sharing them around, I think that would be the safest solution.
Hey, Michelle, I was going to add a point. Our trail crew and wilderness crew are following pretty much all of these same protocols. They're only using a tool that's signed out to them for the day. They're not sharing tools. So we're kind of all working in concert with one another.
Okay. Great.